I became a baker. So how did you all get to where you are today? What inspired you to become a maker? What different kinds of making have you gotten into? We're using maker in the very loose, general sense of anything that you have created or done hands-on. So I guess the first thing we'll do, some of you were in the last panel, but some of you weren't. So just go ahead and start off with 1-minute introductions and your background, and if you want to focus on some different things this time around.
Sure. Yeah, my name's Joseph Bernier. I'm 24, an IU graduate with Psych and Spanish BAs. I currently teach at Follow Child Montessori, where I do a lot of the programming for stuff like music, cooking, mental and emotional health. I'm an afternoon teacher specifically, but I do just a lot of just all over the place, you know, based on my interests. I like growing plants, instruments, cooking, board and video games, things like that.
My name is Kenny Joseph, and I currently work as an analytical chemist at a private forensic toxicology lab in Indianapolis. And as far as the makersphere goes, I am currently working with both Christy and Hannah to start up a STEM nonprofit for kids. And in my personal life, most of my maker activities have to do with visual arts, textiles, and with cooking.
I'm Hannah Milano. I've worked in the toxicology industry. My background is biology. My degree is from IU biology. Most of my background is heavily nature and animal based. I've worked at the zoo, I've worked with the DNR, and so that's mostly kind of what my nature animal based.
My name's Bethany Simmerman. I got my degree just recently in 2013 from Purdue University. I had already a really wide variety of interests and background, and Erin tried to tell me I should go through all of it and it'll turn me purple. I was in anthropology at Purdue and managed to win a couple of Purdue Literary Awards for my writing. I am now a published author. I have 3 different books that came out in print this fall. And I have a wide variety of art that's actually on display right now over in the exhibition hall. I like making messes. I also make community. It's part of what I do too. So I've gotten help out with this board, but I also, I would say board, I'm not supposed to, the committee for the Maker Faire. And then I'm also a priestess with the group here in town. And I work in electrical engineering because, you know, why not have all of the things? Yeah, and I grow and I have a crazy garden and I cook and I have children galore. I'm trying to see if I can collect them all. I'm getting close. I'm up to 4 so far.
You have a lot to go through.
No, I don't. I'm just Beth. I go by Beth. It's 4 letters. My life is simple.
So we talked about this in the last panel, if any of you were here, and so maybe you guys have slightly different answers this time around also, but in terms of making, did you have a role model or a mentor or somebody that really inspired you to get into that kind of hands-on making and doing activities?
I said it last time, but my mom is really my #1 inspiration, and like my job prospects have changed wildly. When I was little, I said I wanted to be an engineer, and then it was lawyer, psychologist, school counselor, teacher, counselor, teacher again, like, and so now I'm teaching. But I mean, I've had so many different weird things I wanted to do, and so she's been supportive with me through all of that. Yeah, definitely a big support.
I would also say my parents. My dad was more in the concrete STEM field, and my mom was more of an artist. She was a seamstress, so I like to be able to combine what they did together. And I also said this last time, but television. I'm not a big proponent of just like plopping your kids in front of a TV, but good TV can have a very good influence. So I'm very pro PBS, public broadcasting, and those shows, and inspiring kids to be able to learn and make and not separate the two.
Definitely my family, very supportive. Anything that I wanted to do. We lived in the country, so it wasn't easy to get me to activities, but they happily did it, driving me there, waiting, picking me up when I was done. My extended family gave me a lot of support as I grew up, asking me, animal questions. I spent a lot of time working in vets' offices, so that encouraged me. I felt like I was contributing, even though I was really young, and I knew they were just going to call a vet after they talked to me. And then, like Kenny, I also watched a lot of TV. Jeff Corwin, I don't know if anyone remembers him, but he was cool, and I remember watching him and being pretty obsessed with his lifestyle and wanting to basically be him when I grew up.
I learned a lot of the things I do now from my mom. I will fall into one of the, I guess, the minority on my family wasn't necessarily the ones that were like, yeah, go do. I learned the things from my mom. And then I went out and my dad was supportive. He was also very busy. We had a big family and he was working very full time. And then I had teachers in high school that were stunning. I happened to go to a high school in middle of nowhere, Ohio, that had the best curriculum, the most amazing teachers. I want to say 2 of the best teachers of the year in Ohio when I was in high school were both at that high school. So I was spoiled. I was very lucky there. And specifically my art teacher, Mrs. Beal, helped me. But also, his mother helped encourage me to keep at it because, you know, when you're growing up in a mom, you're supposed to be well behaved, right? Nah. Nah. And I've been lucky to have a really solid community around me to help push me even when I kind of want to fall down and collapse.
Right, so that kind of leads me to the next question, and Beth, maybe you can start this time and we'll go down that way. How do you make connections with these mentors, or as we used earlier, like a support system or a tribe of adults when you're an older adult? How do you really start off those connections?
First off, decide you're going to. Like, actually try. Getting into my program at Purdue was amazing and probably one of the scariest things I've ever done. I was pregnant and I had just lost my job. So it's a great time to go back to school, right? So I did because I didn't have anything else I was doing with my life right then. And I was having panic attacks almost every day on my way to school, but I did it. And I would talk with my teachers and ask about the lesson plans, and really I chose subjects I wanted to just devour. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Those subjects that are just too good. And so I'd stop and ask questions and spend a lot of time with them. People underestimate the power of just talking to your teachers like they're people, because there is possibly nothing else that can get you the kind of connections that you want. I managed to do 2 research projects and a study abroad my senior year for basically that reason. And by the way, they were delicious and delightful and not at all required for a bachelor's. But they were fun. So let yourself have fun with the subject matter you like. Do not do what you're told. Do what you want.
That was 2 juicy pieces. That was, don't be afraid to ask and just step up and make a connection, but then also have fun.
Yes.
That's the key thing.
And you have to be willing to do them both, or else you kind of trip on yourself.
Hannah, do you have anything?
I totally agree with that. Like, you have to ask, you have to not be afraid to ask people when you don't know. If you go into, like, when I was with the DNR, people would come in and they would ask questions, adults, kids, whatever, about getting involved. That's great. That's how you have to do it. If you want to learn something, like I heard you earlier asking him, that's so great. Like, that's exactly what you should do. You just gotta not be afraid to say, I'm interested in this. I don't know how to go about doing it. How did you do it? And how do I get involved? I think that's a big part of it, especially when we're adults and we feel like we're not supposed to do that anymore. Like, it's not acceptable. It totally is. You totally should. And people like to talk about themselves and their interests. So you connect, and people are all about that. I also think, even aside from like people you know for a fact do a task that you like, I've been seated next to people on planes. We're talking, and it ended up being she wanted to start like a mentorship program for women in Indianapolis. Like, how random, in science. Like, really? I was like, yes. So, because especially, yeah, like in science and a lot of fields too, although not always by gender like we talked about earlier. Some fields are kind of exclusive to one gender or another, and so it's nice to kind of get a tribe of people to push you through it or show you what they did or how to navigate problems they've already dealt with. And then, let's see, also, even if you think that you're not prepared or you're too young or too old, whatever it is, just do it anyway. Because a lot of the stuff that I did, I was way young, the youngest person for sure, like in vets' offices at 10 or 11, running around, being paid like under the table. My parents let me do it because they never put like a cap on it. If I said I wanted to, they took me. So don't be afraid of like your age. Just go anyway. It's cool.
I would say as far as, actually reaching out and like finding mentors, that the biggest obstacle for me was that I'm an introvert. I'm a homebody, so I can't meet mentors if I'm at home. So it's just like getting over the hump of getting outside. And so like a big way that I got over that was, even though I'm an introvert, I tend to make friends that are not. And they bring me to things like this, or I have a good set of friends that like will always allow me to meet people that I can connect with. And it's not just asking people like, can you teach me your ways? A lot of times you have things to offer your mentor. So a lot of times having that reciprocal relationship makes it a lot easier to find a mentor, and to be mentored, and to also be able to help and prepare yourself to be mentored yourself.
Yeah. For me, oh man, I just had something planned and I forgot about it. No, I was gonna say, for one thing, just say yes when opportunities arrive. Like, even if they're weird, even if you never do them, like, that's basically what you're talking about. It's just, yeah, say yes. There's gonna be weird things where somebody says, hey, do you want to do this? Hey, do you want to do that? And you go, oh, that's not me. No, I think that people forget to learn as they turn into adults. They think that I gotta know everything by now. They settle into paths and they say, like, this is what I am and this is all what I'll always be. Learning is lifelong. I think that everyone should be a lifelong student. And so for me, when it comes back to how do you build like a group of makers and stuff, it's just continue to learn and continue to surround yourself with people that are doing the same thing. As a teacher, that's pretty obvious. I learn from my students every day. I go home thinking something new every day. It's easier that way. So they don't even have to be adults. I surround myself with kids and they teach me. Like, yeah.
It's a good point. It can come from anywhere. You can always learn new things from anybody that you meet.
Anybody.
All right, so that was really great. You all kind of fed into each other, so that organically worked out really well. I guess the next question would be, what is like the first thing that you remember making, and remember like making in the broader sense, or the first time you really felt like accomplished and proud of something that you did? And we do not have to keep going down the line. Whoever wants to start.
All right. I'm going to crack a joke first, although it is a true story. The first thing I remember making from scratch was, I had been doing recipes with my mom since I was little. And this one time I'm like, I think I figured out the chemistry of baking. So I'm going to try something from scratch. Let's go. And I decided that it was going to be green and sweet and cinnamon flavored cake mixed with all of the ingredients. And I put it in a pan, and I was like 8 years old or something. I don't even know. And my grandparents were in from out of town, and I made my cinna cake, was what I think I called it. And that sucker came out solid. It was a really delightfully bland, solid pancake that I made. And everyone was so nice about trying nibbles. I'm like, isn't it good? They're like, We had fire going that night. Everyone starts putting pieces of it into the fire while I'm not looking, so that it slowly goes away. And I'm like, oh, are people burning it? And they're like, yeah. I said, is it because it didn't turn out right? They're like, yeah. I said, oh, I didn't get the chemistry right. And they're like, what? I'm like, I was trying to figure out how to do the baking soda and the baking powder just right, and I think I did it wrong. They're like, yeah, you had too much baking soda. I said, oh, thank you for explaining that. I'll do it better next time. Let's burn it.
It smelled good.
It did. It smelled better burning than it tasted in your mouth, I admit. And we went back to building our puzzle, and everyone's like, oh, you didn't get that upset about that. I'm like, well, kind of sucks. I wanted it to taste good, but I wanted it to taste good. I didn't want to force feed you.
So that's funny because we'll just go ahead and roll out 2 questions. And the other question was going to be, what was a big failure and what did you learn from it? So you guys can, chew on both of those.
Literally in this case.
Well, I will roll with my failure.
Yay!
So when I was a zookeeper, I was supposed to train this bird to fly into a crate. She needed to go to another zoo for a breeding program, and birds are really susceptible to stress. And they can die if they get stressed out. So we wanted to make it really chill for her. So I had a long time to work on this. I just needed her to get in the crate. So I had the crate, I had the food, and I put it in there. And one time she landed on the crate. She never go in the crate. And eventually I handed off the task to a more experienced colleague who got her to go in the crate with a different method. She got her to fly on the perch first. And after she was comfortable on the perch, she moved the perch in the crate, and into the crate she flew to land on her little perch. And so I guess it taught me a couple things. One, to definitely speak up, ask for help. It wasn't working, and I was definitely vocal about how it wasn't working, but I never really asked anybody a different way to train her. And then 2, there's lots of ways to get to the same goal, and they don't always have to be like a straight line. It can be so that's what it taught me. So it was still good, and she got in the grade just fine, and she transferred just fine. She's great. There was still plenty of time. It wasn't like at the last minute or anything when I would be worried. And then I guess my first memory of doing a thing that, with animals really was we moved from our house in a small town, the town section, to in the country. And so there was a pond on the property, and before we even got anything there, a house or anything like that, we're just walking around the pond, and I remember there was a fish that in my child mind seemed like it was stuck in some grasses under the water. Now, in retrospect, it was probably just fine. As an adult, it got itself in there. But I felt like it was stuck. So I moved all the grass and it got out and swam away. I remember feeling like I just saved its life. And that was I remember that day very distinctly. I was 10 and I was like, I want to do this forever. And so that was my first big memory. I felt very accomplished. Now, it was probably just fine. As an adult, I bet it was fine. But I remember it and it was an important day.
I will say that, and not to shoot you down, I started cooking at a really young age. I was the youngest of 5, and so my parents loved me, but also I was the youngest of 5, so I had a lot of alone time for myself. So it was a lot of, I got to experiment with things just because they weren't good. They didn't, I was safe, but I got to experiment with things. So the first thing I experimented was with cooking, and I always used to argue my mom, when she would make dessert, she'd always make sheet cake because there were just a lot of us. And I would get mad every time because I wanted one of those pretty cakes that are stacked. And so I vowed to myself, I was I will never eat a plain sheet cake again. Sheet cake is delicious. Yeah. But basically one of the kind of first maker activities that I was actually excelled at was cooking because I was determined to just not for it to be plain. So I got kind of good at decorating cakes and all that stuff. And so that was a nice motivator. But then I would say that something that I definitely struggled with, and I still struggle with to this day, is just finishing just basic crafts. So I'm that person that has a lot of half knitted scarves. So I like crocheting, I like other things. They're just half finished, and I'm still working on it. And I think what's important to get over that kind of hump is to have, again, the friend group, the tribe, where if there's people. I'm definitely an ideas person, and we have people that we're associated with that are doers. So I can say I have all these ideas, and I can even make an outline and a plan, but it's just Kenny, just do it. So I have a lot of half-finished arts and crafts, and I think the one that bothers me the most is, so like I said, I watched a lot of PBS. I made a Muppet. I started a Muppet. Oh. And it's so close to being done. It's just been in my closet. I just keep thinking that when I finish it, that something the world's gonna end or something. I don't know. But that I think that it's important to have people that kind of push you, because I do have a friend that will call me probably once a month and ask me if I finished the Muppet to make it look like her and stuff like that. She's very much a doer maker, but I think it's important. I I've had the successes, like I've seen a finished project, but then I also have things where like it's almost like you're kind of scared to finish it because
So some of the skeletons in your closets are Muppets.
literal a foam skeleton.
I see.
Yeah, it's to the point where it can talk, but it can't. Just gotta throw a wig on it. But yeah, no, I think like having those successes and failures is important because it kind of reveals a lot about yourself.
I'm mildly jealous. I was the oldest, so you must be this tall to cook in the kitchen alone. Was the rule. Believe you me, the first time I was let out of that gate, you got the Senate cake.
It's funny. My parents let me tinker in the kitchen a lot, and one of my first failures was absolutely cooking because I was cooking out of my mom's cookbook she got as a wedding gift. And first time I made bread, it looked like a brick, literally. I mean, but like I can make croissants now, you know, like it's, no. It was like
We'll let you, just so it's said.
We don't believe.
So like that's the thing is that people forget failures are intrinsic to learning. Like you have to fail to learn, in my opinion. I mean, it's a big thing. As for the first thing I like remember making or like maker, I was interested in a lot of STEM stuff as a kid. Like not good at it, but interested. I had a big drawer in my like my bureau or my dresser in my bedroom full of toys I'd taken apart. And I remember I like accidentally discovered electrolysis because like I glued wires to a 9-volt and then put them in water for a few days, and one side of it turned green and one side didn't. I was like, that's the current. And so like, you know, that was like something I did in my room alone. Nobody told me how to do that or taught me that. So just having access to stuff, I was able to learn to teach myself, you know. Learning is also pretty innate, I think. People want to learn.
So that's a good segue, I guess. That how do you stay motivated when you do have failure or when you start a project and you don't finish it? Is there like a trick or just push it through?
I like switching gears. I do not like, I'm a creative type. I've been told this my whole life, and it frequently sounds like an insult with a lot of people. I'm like, stop it, though. No, I love doing a wide range of projects, obviously. And the thing is, if I try to put them all in a straight line and do a beginning to end, I burn out. I can't do it. I wear out. But if I take time when I get home from a trip to clean up my house, then I relax from the trip. And once I'm caught up around the house, if I then take out all of my cool stuff from my trip, it might inspire me to do an art project. And if I give myself permission to kind of follow what I want to do at the time, even if it's a little bit extra challenging, like what you were saying, I have those projects too with the ominous, I just need a wig kind of thing. They get ominous after a while, and the funny thing is on those, I have to let the frustration build up enough that I'm more angry than I am frustrated. And stomp it and be like, no, it's done today.
This Muppet is like a 5-year.
This Muppet. Yeah.
It's been a long time.
I'm now going to refer to this when I refer to the things I can't quite finish because they're staring at me, like honestly.
And it's literally staring at me because I made it have eyes.
Oh, that's scary.
I will say, but like I do finish things, and I think that the things that I have finished, the major difference between finishing and not finishing is when I start a project, I need to be able to see the end. And so like with this Muppet, or if I do a scarf, like a freeform scarf, like I don't know how it's gonna end, so I don't know when it's done. And so like if I don't see that there is a finish line, I'm probably not gonna try to approach it with the same speed that I would like a work project or a solve math problem or something.
There's something called SMART goals that reminds me of. In goal setting, you want to make sure a goal is specific, reasonable, measurable, time sensitive, and something else. Like you can look up SMART goals, but attainable. Thank you. You want to make sure that your goals are actually attainable, you know, and time sensitive, so that you don't like just have no endpoint in vision or whatever. So like if you can set SMART goals, that's good. Myself, I am okay with giving up sometimes. You know, I think that there are some things that like you just don't want to do and don't need to be done, and so sometimes it's better to just let it go. You know, if I know that I'm not going to do something, it's okay to let it go. And you know, I've like trashed art stuff that I've started and not finished, or like I'll start at the school. Maybe I'll start like a little sub project, you know, where I'm trying to improve part of the school, or like do something like that, and I realize that like all this effort I'm putting towards it, I'm not getting anywhere. I'm not doing what I need to do. So it's just like, okay, back up. What's next? And often that gives me the energy and resources to do something more productive later on.
I think that's good advice. If we can boil all of it down, it's kind of like we need to set ourselves up for success. We need to have attainable goals. We need to have a general timeline. We need to be able to prioritize when we have multiple projects. And then we also need to be able to kill things and say, you know what, this isn't working out, I'm gonna or
right.
I'm gonna change it, I'm gonna change from my original plan and do something else.
I will not kill that one.
I need to finish love it. It's been so long. Alright, so we're probably
We have a question.
I didn't want to interrupt you,
Oh,
but
no,
can I ask
go
you a
for it.
question?
yeah,
You know,
please, if you have questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a perfectionist in a sense, is there a way to deal with that? Because like, you're like, man, I could, you get done,
Right.
I think I can make it better, and it's like a never ending. You just like have the
When's
feeling.
the sign you're done?
I have a
That's-
response to what you were saying that might apply to you.
Go for it.
I found that there's a step between I'm going to light this on fire and I am going to finish it right now. And it is, I trust myself to finish it later. I trust myself that I don't have all of the things I need, like what you're saying with the SMART goals. I don't have all the things I need to finish it right this minute. I know I'm going to come back to it later. I know I'm going to set aside time for it. I know I'm going to, I have faith in myself that this is going to be a priority, just not right now. And that is probably the single kindest thing I've done to my perfectionistic, you have to do everything perfect right this minute, blah, blah, blah. Because on time does not have to mean within 3 weeks. It does not have to mean before the end of this event. It just doesn't.
I will say that also, even though you have to trust yourself, like getting an outside opinion helps when you're like in that loop. So like as far as projects that I've finished, cakes. And that's something that could like go, it could go forever. Like I can keep wanting to decorate and I keep wanting to add things. But when somebody, if you're doing it for somebody else and somebody says like it's perfect, like it's done, like get out of your own head, like that helps a lot to say like I've done, you know, next time maybe I'll add more flavor, like this is good, like this is done. And getting an outside opinion kind of like grounds you.
Yeah, sometimes good enough has to be okay. Perfect is not always achievable.
And
Yeah,
with
I feel
some
like
stuff,
arts is impossible.
with some stuff, somebody's good enough is more than I can do to begin with.
Exactly,
I mean,
like it's always gonna be better than you think it is.
I can't draw, I can't paint, I can't do any of that physical media. So literally anything you put out is above my bar. You know, you just got to be able to recognize that too.
Thank you.
Well, you got a good skill. Do your best. Yeah, that's all you need to do.
Also step away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Last night I was setting up to make her Faire. Here, like all the tablecloths, and I looked at them. I'm like, they're not right. They're not right. They're not right. So I went through and I fixed all of them so they looked right. Okay. And then I was looking at them and went, you know, it's funny. I like seeing things that look handcrafted. It means a lot to me to see things that look handcrafted. But when I've done it myself, it's like, oh, people can see I did this.
But when you're at like a farmer's market and you see a pot that's got some little imperfection, you say, oh, I can't get this at a store.
No.
Right, and that's what makes it good.
Right. But in the mirror,
It's not what you tell yourself, no.
no. It's so hard. And no, I don't have an answer to that one at all. Like, guilty as charged
Oh.
But you
all day long.
recognize it in yourself, and I think that you can at least recognize when you're getting caught up, and sometimes that's half of that.
And I'm sure you were all judging the tablecloths here today, right?
Oh,
I
sure,
know.
yeah.
I totally noticed that there were two cars.
If you haven't said anything, I wouldn't know there was any, to be honest.
That's the,
That answer makes me feel so much better.
There
Yet
you go.
talk about it,
Yeah.
let people laugh with
Open
you.
up, open up.
Do you have any other questions? That was kind of all I had prepared, so if anybody else has
Yeah.
questions or comments, I think this was another successful discussion.
Pretty sound.
Alright, well, thanks everybody.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for being awesome and being willing to be on